It's Worn Out Racing, and it is part 2 of the 899cc turbo build. And in today's episode, we are going to firstly dive in to stripping down this old engine that we realised is not quite good enough for what we need, and taking a look at my new 899cc engine package for the turbo build, which I'll be honest is the cleanest one I have seen probably ever. That's right, it pained me to say it in the last episode, but the Lemon's old engine, it's just not going to cut it. I just feel like there's too much stuff missing and it's too tired. We went through that already, so I think there is plenty on this that we can save, because let's not forget, it is basically the same engine that's in the Lemon now, the Turbo Fiat engine. So even if we turbo one or whatever, I can use loads of stuff off this between the two. So I'm going to set up a time lapse, not talk through it, stick some music on. I'm going to strip this bad boy down to its bare bones. Okay, that's actually gone pretty well so far, and I've actually found a couple of little treats, or at least one or two things I think it's going to be pretty useful to keep. As I've already said, I'm going to keep this because I'm probably going to paint this some kind of cool effect for either the Lemon or for this turbo engine. I might throw this on the shelf. I mean, it's not great, but obviously if I have one completely let go, at least I've got one I know probably works. Now, one nice thing was, randomly, it's got a brand new oil filler on it. Doesn't look like it's had a single drop of oil ever go through it. Now this, although it looks questionable, is actually brand new. It's a brand new thermostat. Again, looks like it's never had water go through it, so I'll probably strip that back, paint it, get that to one side, and then a few other little random bits. You can never underestimate having an injection of more bolts for the old random parts bin, and then little things like this, which I imagine are probably a right pain in the butt to get. I'll keep that kind of stuff, but what you want to see is how does it look inside this engine. So I will apologise now if I can't get it off with one hand. Right, what's the best way to do this? Let's go over the top. Yeah. Oof. Oof, oof, oof. Now, all right. Now, admittedly, this is probably for it being upside down, because I imagine the oil way's then gone up the wrong way. But even then, I'm not sure I would expect to see oil quite that bad. I mean, it goes to show you how long this thing was over fueling for. I mean, look at that. That is yeah. Now I will double check. I can't think of a time that I'm ever going to bust one of these. I mean, we're not pushing that kind of boost in the new engine. I might keep these push rods just in case. Well, either way, this at least proves my point. Hang on, let me get a screwdriver. Yeah, look at that. That is a lot of build up, especially in this one. I mean, that might explain why it wasn't running very well. Goodbye, Old Faithful. You shall sit on the shelf. One nicely stashed but very worn out block down there. And I actually kept the head in the end. I've just stashed it down there. It didn't weigh anything. I just thought, do you know what? There's more chance of me burning out a valve or something, hopefully, than there is me blowing up a block. So either way, that's done. On to the new engine. Oh yeah, I picked up a generator off Facebook Marketplace for £50. Absolute bargain. Now, before I start banging on too much about the new engine, and there's a lot of good things to go on about it, there's a few little things we need to do first to get it on the engine stand and get the gearbox away. Now, I'm just going to flip the camera around and quickly explain something, and then we'll hit the time lapse, get this on the engine stand, because I've got a method. Now, when it comes to storing one of these, you have to remember that on an 899cc, they're a wet box, which means the actual drive shaft is open. So the drive shaft goes in, and then you have like a CV boot that goes over the top. Now, on your sporting one, there is a cup here. So it doesn't matter what happens, you tip it around, the oil doesn't come out. But on one of these, as soon as the CV boot's off, the oil drains out. Now, Simon's already drained this one, but obviously you don't want any stuff getting in there. So all I ever do is just put like an old rubber glove or something over this one on the other side, same as the drive shafts, just to keep any dirt and horribleness out of that. Chuck some old rubber gloves or little bags, whatever you've got over the end, and then we'll tuck this away in some corner or another that I don't really have. But for the engine, the one thing that you definitely need to take off, because there's not a lot of extra weight with these few little bits on here, is the clutch and the flywheel, because essentially it bolts on through the bolts here on where it goes to the gearbox, and it can't go on with this. And there'll be a good chance to see what this clutch and flywheel's like. I mean, 40,000 miles, it should be like new, but we'll see. So I'm going to take this off over on the engine stand. Cue the time lapse. Now, it goes without saying, when you're lifting heavy stuff, don't be an idiot, because if you damage your back for the rest of your life, you're going to regret it. Now, I've normally got quite a good method of doing this, and you might have seen in the time lapse, but if not, I'll flip it around. But essentially, I bolt the, the actual arm onto the engine, and I tip the engine stand over, slide it onto the arm, and then normally what I can do is just, lift with your knees, and then it just kind of pivots over and then goes over. It's a little bit tricky. I'm not going to lie, it's a little bit of a strain, but generally speaking, it's all right, because you're not fully lifting the whole thing. It's kind of partly on the engine. I don't know what's going on. I mean, all right, it's got the engine mounts, it's got the alternator on it, it's got the throttle body and a few other little bits. It feels significantly heavier than what it normally does. I don't want to risk it, so I'm just going to get a mate to come over some point in the evening, see if he can just get one end, I'll get the other end. It'd be so much safer, half the weight each. I think these things are like 60 kg or something, like 70 kg, which in itself is all right, but it's just how you're picking it up, and it's such a condensed weight. Either way, I'm going to flip the camera around now and just show you what I mean about this method. But even with two people, this is way easier. And there you go. Like I said, you just tip the engine over very slightly, just so obviously you can line the holes up, put the pin in. And like I said, you essentially just then go, once it gets to about there, about halfway up, it's dead easy, because then part of the weight's on the actual wheel itself, and then you're good to go. But it can stay like that for now. It has got oil in it, but I don't think it's going anywhere. And fast forward a couple of days, and ironically, and not at all related to what I just said a few minutes ago about hurting my back, I hurt my back. Combination of things, over-exercising, etc., etc. But it feels a lot better now. But either way, I'm going to wait still till one of my friends is free to be able to lift the engine up. But while it's sat on the floor, and while I'm sorting my back out, I may as well take you over why this engine is so damn good, and why I feel a little bit guilty. I'm sure that most of you that are into small Fiats probably dismiss this engine quite a lot. I've said it before, I'm sure to say it again. So maybe a lot of you won't have ever seen this engine, or at least not in such a good state. Now, obviously it's done 40,000 miles. That doesn't always mean anything, but I mean, you can see even the block isn't even rusty. It is, I'll be honest with you, absolutely spotless. So I feel a little bit bad about it. When I was going to do the Lemon's original engine, I was going to throw a turbo on it. Didn't really matter too much if I put too much boost for it and blew something up, because that engine was kind of already on its way out. I didn't mind. Whereas this one's so nice, I can't do that. I can't bring myself to just mash it together and blow it up. So I'm going to have to think about it a little bit more carefully and try and do it properly. Now, the plan for this is there are some things I can do to it now. Start mocking up a few things like the throttle body bob. For any of you who don't know, that's the actual hat that sits on the top. That's essentially where the boost will collect and where the air filter will fit on from the turbo and stuff. And I can obviously mock up a few other things. Now, one of the main things I do need to stress, though, I've got no deadline for this, mostly because it's just like a little sideline project. It is for fun, and I think the more I think about it, it may well end up in the Lemon. I don't know. We'll have to just see. But one of the main things I said to you about this was it's a budget build, and you can't rush budget builds. Do you know why? Because you might not find all the parts you want on a budget. So I've got really lucky. I bought that engine, £150, gearbox, all the accessories on it, alternator, starter motor, everything. And the other couple of little bits I needed, I've got for free. So already, bargain. And also, it came with what is, I'll be honest with you, an absolutely immaculate manifold, which again, makes me feel a little bit bad that I'm going to be welding stuff to it. But things like air fuel ratio gauges and a little controller and stuff for it, they're a little bit pricey, so I'm going to try and hold out for a second-hand one. And there are a few other little things as well. I mean, the turbo, that's only £100. I'm probably going to buy one, some kind of Chinese knockoff. Max Peding rods, eBay, AliExpress, they're all your friend when it comes to this thing. But while I'm waiting for all these parts to turn up on a budget, I may as well tell you a couple of little plans, things that I already know how we're going to do it. Now, exhaust manifold. I've been staring at this for a little while. I've been staring at various turbos and all the turbo flanges that you need to mount it. And the turbo that I'm after is a GT15 or something like that, which are used on the old Van Aken turbos. So it's good enough for them, it's good enough for me. You can pick them up for about £110, comes with the actuator, and all the other little bits you need. You just need the flanges. Now, weirdly, it is actually a 3-bolt pattern for a GT15. I've measured it. It's not a million miles off this, so chances are I might not cut this off. I might actually just, as long as it fits okay, put the actual metal flange onto there, either remove the studs or figure something out and then weld it onto this flat piece. It just means I've got a lot more area to actually weld it onto. I'm not having to cut it. I'm not weakening anything. I'm not causing myself any problems. So as long as that works out, I'm going to be welding that flange to the bottom of there. Now, how are you going to mount this turbo, Benji boy? Well, I'm going to tell you now. Obviously, that's where the manifold goes, and it is perfectly plausible to mount your turbo down here. You haven't got a lot of room. There's a sensor there, the oil filter's in the way, etc, etc. So I think I'm probably going to follow suit some of the ones I've seen in Poland, some other countries and stuff as well, where they essentially just run a almost a 90-degree back up on itself, or 90-degree, 180-degree back up here, which I've actually already got, as long as it's the right dimensions. Run that U-point up to the side, and actually have a side mount turbo. Now, anyone who's seen the 900cc engine bay, and you'll see it on my Lemon, this area is all airbox, so it may as well be a turbo. Short pipes into the throttle body, short pipes down into the intercooler. Everyone's a winner, and it just removes all of the problems then of running this back down here. Now, that does obviously mean I need to be a bit careful, because obviously I'm fabricating all this out of the car. So I need to make sure that I don't hit any gearbox stuff or anything like that. So we can work that out. Somewhere or another, I'll suss it out, even if I put the gearbox back on for the time being. So that's the turbo bit done. Now, the other thing that I can get started on with is this. Now, you might think, why the hell have I got this massive piece of pipe? This is actually when I was playing on the supercharger setup, and I bought this, and I'll be honest with you, I think this is literally the biggest metal pipe that you can buy on eBay, I think, somewhere or another, for the throttle body bob. Now, you'll see, it is essentially a curved piece of pipe that's been, oh, you can see it actually. There you go. That's been welded. So it's not actually a piece of pipe at all. It's just been rolled round and then welded shut. Now, what you will notice is, if I could flip the camera around, is that this, yeah, pretty much sits exactly on there. Like that. Now, obviously, it doesn't need to be anywhere that big. This is just the shortest piece of pipe they made. But my plan is, as long as it looks like it's going to fit and actually seal along the bottom of this rubber seal here, if not, then I'll have to cut back down that line, take a couple of mil out of it, put it back together, and then weld it again. But I'm hoping I won't need to do that. But the plan is to work out how much of this I need, probably around sort of there, a couple of inches of height on that, make a metal pipe plate for the top, and then I can obviously put an injector on one side, put the pipe for the other side for the actual boost going in, and maybe even have a dump valve coming off the side of it, whatever's needed. But this was significantly cheaper than trying to find any kind of like off the shelf or get an aftermarket one built or any such things. I think this was probably about £12 or something, I can't remember. Either way, that is going to be my throttle body bob with any luck. And that means in the not too distant future, I've got other things on the go at the moment. I've sorted out my VRS. That's gone really well. I'll tell you about that another time. And I've got the new car coming as well. So obviously I'll tell you about that another time. So I will do that on the side. But what that'll effectively mean is there will be a turbo on the engine and there'll be a way for the turbo boost to get into the engine. So that's actually two quite big bits, really, let's face it. So once those two are nailed, after that, it's all the little finicky detail bits that actually make it work. But it'll be quite exciting, seeing the turbo strapped to the side of it. So we'll basically crack on. So nice short episode. Thought I'd just quickly update you. I want to get something out while I'm recovering from messing myself up like the stupid old man that I am. And then you know where it's going with it. But next episode, not entirely certain what it's going to be yet. It might be the new car. Yeah, it might be. Might be the new car. Something to look forward to. Anyway, I will see you soon. Take care.